To every man and woman with African blood in their veins, whether you stand beneath the tall buildings of Harlem, whether you rise with the sun over Lagos, whether you struggle in the narrow streets of Kingston, whether your laughter echoes through the neighborhoods of Bahia, whether you walk proudly in Johannesburg or grind through the cold mornings of Paris, I do not speak to you as a president. I speak as your brother, a son of the same ancestors, a heart carved from the same suffering, and the same fire. This is not a speech of comfort. This is a call to awakening. They tried to erase us with borders. They divided us with flags. They placed oceans between us so we would forget we were once one people. They renamed us, reshaped us, reclassified us. You are African American. You are Caribbean. You are Afro-Latin. You are African, as if pain comes with nationalities, as if chains change their weight depending on the language you speak. Hear this truth. We were broken in different places, but shattered by the same hands. Some of us were taken away in the belly of dark ships. Others left behind under the burning sun of new colonies. Plantations grew in the West. Borders and prisons grew in Africa. A new system was born, one designed to keep us apart even when our shadows looked identical. They told those in America to forget the motherland. They told Africans to fear the ones returning. They made us strangers to our own family. And while we fought over identity, while we argued about accents and passports, they sat on thrones woven with our stolen history. My words today are not whispers. They are a reminder of who we truly are, a nation scattered by force, but destined to rise as one. I speak to you who protest in New York, your fists raised against bullets bought with African gold. To you in Haiti, where hunger is used as a weapon and courage is the only thing still fed. To you in South Africa's townships, surviving promises that never arrive. To you in the favelas of Brazil, where skin color is treated like a crime. To you in Mali and Burkina Faso, guarding the last sacred pieces of land our ancestors entrusted to us. You are not minorities. You are a scattered empire. They want you tired. They want you ashamed. They want you speaking their languages so loudly that you forget the one language that once united us. Freedom? Because the moment Harlem and Ouagadougou speak the same word, resistance, their entire world begins to tremble. I am not here to soothe your wounds. I am here to reopen them so you remember who caused them. You are not weak. You are disconnected. And that is the one thing they fear, that the descendants of kings and queens find each other again. They did not just take us. They divided us, half stolen across the sea, half left under the burning sun. One became the slave, the other became the colonized. Yet the chains were always made of the same metal. So listen closely. We are not fighting different battles. We are fighting one enemy wearing many masks. And the day we recognize that truth is the day the world rewrites history. Wake up. Not as citizens of different nations, but as one unbreakable African world. Because this story did not begin with slavery. It began with glory. And that glory is returning. We did not just become slaves overseas. We became slaves in our own homes. One half of the family taken into chains. The other half chained in silence. Different chapters. Same book of suffering. You were whipped in cotton fields. We were whipped in classrooms. You were told you came from nothing. We were told we would become nothing. They fed us the same poison, just cooked in different kitchens. They whispered in America and Europe, Africa sold you. Africa forgot you. They whispered in Africa. The diaspora abandoned us. They will never return. They needed us suspicious of each other. They needed oceans to remain walls. They needed memory to stay poisoned. Because if the stolen and the colonized ever look each other in the eye again and say, we are one, their empires collapse like sandcastles in a storm. They gave the diaspora freedom, but removed the keys to power. They gave Africa independence, but stole the controls to its wealth. Freedom without land is a cage with no roof. Independence without economics is a flag with no... And in the streets of America they granted civil rights, then created prisons large enough to swallow entire generations. In the heart of Africa, they raised new flags while foreign banks remained the true. Presidents dot bars for you, dead for us. The same master. Different chains, they erased the Africa they feared. The Africa of gold and libraries. astronomy and empires, queens who ruled armies and kings, who built cities without slavery, without starvation. They did not want you to remember that Africa taught the world before the world pretended to teach Africa. So they filmed our wounds and hid our wings. They showed you hunger, never harvest. They showed you conflict, never kingdoms. They showed you poverty, never philosophers or poets or builders who carved miracles into stone. They wanted you to return as tourists, buying souvenirs instead of claiming inheritance. Hear me clearly. I am not calling you back to be guests in the land of your ancestors. I am calling you back to be heirs. Not everyone must return physically. Some will return with skill, some with investment, some with innovation. Some will return with the strength of their voices across continents. But every single one of us must return in loyalty, because a scattered people can be hunted like animals. A united people cannot be conquered by any empire. They stole you by force. They kept us by force. Now we must rise by choice. To my family in America, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, in Europe, listen closely. This is not comfort. This is truth. You were not set free. You were set aside. They did not liberate you. They abandoned you with new chains. Chains of debt, chains of policing, chains of neighborhoods built like cages, chains that disconnect you from your royal beginnings. They did not silence you with rope. They silenced you with distraction. They destroyed identity not by burning bodies but by burning history. They stole your language so you would struggle to speak to your own brothers. They changed the names of your ancestors so your family tree would never grow leaves again. They shrunk our empires into footnotes. They turned queens into folk tales. They called kingdoms villages to convince the world that we did not matter. Even when you rose, they built new traps, laws to slow you, chemicals to weaken you, campaigns to divide you, media to mock you. Yet still you, Rise Africa, also rose, yet they made sure your return was never invited. When African nations gained independence, they signed papers under foreign eyes who whispered instructions in dark rooms. No. One called the diaspora home because they feared the unstoppable power of plantation survivors joining hands with colonial survivors. Imagine the genius that survived Brazil's ghettos standing beside the courage that survived Burkina deserts. Imagine Harlem's rebellion paired with Mali's memory. Imagine Kingston's fire holding hands with Congo's resources. Imagine South African resilience, marching beside Nigerian brilliance. The world's rulers dream of nightmares less terrifying than that unity. They orchestrated our separation like a puppet master with strings made of racism and currency. They built their riches by making sure we never combine ours. This is why you never learned about the kings who ruled cities before Europe discovered metal. This is why you never saw black engineers who mapped the stars before telescopes existed. They knew if you understood that you come from greatness, you would stop begging for permission to breathe. They needed you blind. They needed us mute. They needed every ocean to feel like a border, not a bridge. Also, we would forget that we are one family with one future that frightens them. Your rise is our rise. Our rise is your rise. No child of Africa should rise alone, not anymore. Raise your head. Lift your heart. Touch the soil where you stand and whisper these words. I come from a people that cannot be defeated, because every time they buried us, imagine a strategy born in Harlem, refined with the discipline of the Sahel. Imagine Martin Luther King, Jr.'s dream strengthened by Thomas Sankra's courage. Imagine Malcolm X's fire guided by Kwame Nkrumah's blueprint for liberation. That vision terrifies them, which is exactly why it must become our mission. Your identity was not lost. It was stolen, then replaced with a lie. Those who claim you have no roots fear the day you remember that your roots stretch across oceans and into empires that once fed the world. Your roots are not buried beneath your feet. Your roots are alive behind you. We are here, holding them, preserving them, waiting for our family to return. This return is not about geography. It is about genealogy. African isn't a flag. It's a bloodline. It's history breathing through you. It's the wisdom in your resistance. You are African not because you were born here, but because Africa was born within you. That is why I call you now. Do not abandon America. Do not reject Brazil, Jamaica, Haiti, or France. Your story continues wherever you stand. The world will always try to define you. You were never meant to fit inside their definitions. You are here to rewrite them. Africa does not need applause. Africa needs alignment. Stand with us. Speak with us. Invest in us. Build beside us. We do not ask you to fight with weapons. We ask you to fight with will, with unity, with truth. Here is Africa's promise to her scattered children. I cannot promise you comfort. I promise you connection. I cannot offer you luxury. I offer you legacy. Africa does not call tourists. Africa calls tribesmen, tribunes, builders, protectors, visionaries, those ready not to admire Africa, but to restore her. They left you behind. We now bring you forward. This time, we lead together. They do not fear Africa by itself. They do not fear the diaspora by itself. They do not fear Harlem, Jamaica, Haiti, Brazil, Nigeria, or Congo as individual battles. They fear the day we stop seeing separate struggles and realize we have always been one scattered nation. Their greatest nightmare is Black unity. Not because we are many, but because we remember. We once mastered science before Europe learned how to write its name. We healed without hospitals. We built cities without slavery. We charted the stars before compasses existed. Our genius did not fade. It was hidden. They do not fear our fists. They fear our memory. So they keep us divided. They gave Africa flags so we would argue over borders. They gave the diaspora passports so we would forget the land they took from us. They told Africans, the diaspora forgot you. They told the diaspora, Africa abandoned you. Both messages are lies written by the hands that abducted us. We did not get separated by choice. We were scattered like seeds so that we would one day grow back and crack the empire's foundation. Picture what unity looks like. African gold funding Black schools in Chicago. African universities training Jamaican engineers who return home and build futures in steel and electricity. Defense systems designed by Afro-Brazilian architects. Pan-African. Media that teaches truth instead of selling stereotypes. Imagine an economy that moves without permission from former masters. What bank could block that? What army could stop that? What empire could survive that? That is why they weaponize fear. Fear of each other. Fear of failure. Fear of freedom. They tremble when Harlem speaks with Ouagadougou. When Angela Davis's justice meets Miriam Makeba's voice. When the rhythm of Bahia dances with the pride of Ghana. When sons of Detroit link arms with warriors from Bamako. Their nightmare is simple. We stop being angry at each other and start building with each other. They do not fear riot. They fear reunion. Because on the day the diaspora sees Africa as home, and Africa sees the diaspora as its global army, their control ends. 1 billion Africans on the continent, over 200 million across the seas. One unstoppable message: we are not asking for a seat. We are reclaiming the house. We are not here to participate. We are here to prevail. We are not here to reform the table. We are here to reclaim the ground that table stands on. They will call us dangerous. They will call us radicals. They will whisper panic into the ears of the world. But hear this. When oppressed people remember their strength, the oppressor calls it radical. If truth makes us dangerous, then let danger guide us home. To my brothers and sisters in the United States, they label you a minority. How can the children of the world's largest continent be called minority? You are not a minority. You are the lost majority. They shrink you into statistics. They offer slogans like diversity and inclusion, as if being included in a system built to suffocate you is progress. It isn't progress. It is containment. You keep fighting for a seat at their table while they quietly change the laws, the goals, the keys, the locks. They give you holidays but no healing. They give you celebrities but no sovereignty. They give you votes but not ownership, not land, not industries, not media, not weapons. They claim you are free. Yet freedom without ownership is captivity without chains. Black America holds a power they pray you never understand. Black America is not a community. Black America is a sleeping nation, a nation with artists who inspire the world, soldiers who could protect a continent, thinkers who could design civilizations. And the day Black America decides to stop integrating and start initiating, the world order will shudder. Your enemy is not your neighbor. It was never another citizen, another skin color, another class. The real enemy is the system that profits. Every time a black child is killed, incarcerated, or miseducated, it is the same machine that profits when African land is drained and stolen. Different continents, same corporation, same mask, same master. Return with power, not passports. Do not return as tourists wearing African necklaces. Return as heirs reclaiming a kingdom. I am not asking you to bring souvenirs. I am asking you to bring systems, bring ambition, bring blueprints, bring industries that cannot be stolen overnight. Africa does not need applause from stadiums. Africa needs architects of sovereignty, engineers of tomorrow, builders of cities whose names will not be renamed by colonizers. A nation without land is a nation in exile. A people without unity is prey. For too long, the world convinced you that Africa is your shadow, something behind you, something to run from. Yet Africa is not behind. Africa is beneath you, the very soil that nourished the first human breath, the land that did not exile you, but was robbed of you. Black America, listen closely. You are not fighting for access to tables in foreign nations. You are fighting to reclaim the table that was carved by your ancestors before history was stolen. You are told you are a minority. They repeat that word until it becomes a cage in your mind. Minority. You are 200 million strong, scattered across oceans, linked by blood older than empires. You are not a broken family. You are an unfinished revolution. Act like it. Caribbean warriors, hear your name in the wind. The first to rebel, the first to burn the plantations, the first to declare that freedom is not requested, it is taken. Haiti, the stubborn heart of liberation. The world punished you not for failure, but for success. They feared the day your victory would inspire every enslaved plantation on earth. They starved you with embargoes to hide a terrifying truth. Black people can rule themselves without European guidance. Every time Africa stands tall, Haiti stands inside our pride. Jamaica, son of thunder, daughter of drums, you turned your suffering into sound that conquered the globe. Yet they want your music without your movement. They wear your colors but fear your courage. Garvey said, "Rise." His words became wings. Yet you are still asked to crawl. They love your culture because culture cannot vote. Culture cannot reclaim land. Culture cannot own ports, pipelines, parliaments. Control begins with soil. A microphone amplifies voices. Land amplifies power. Brazil, the sleeping giant of the African world, the largest black nation outside Africa. Yet you are told you are mixed, diluted, assimilated. No, you are children of Quilombos, descendants of warriors who broke chains with machetes and built free cities in the jungle. The world erased your memory because your memory threatens their comfort. You survived what was designed to erase you from history. You refused to vanish. You refused to forget. Now refuse to remain silent. All who survived the plantation across centuries share one curse and one calling. The curse, to live in lands that profited from your suffering. The calling, to rise where your ancestors fell. You were not meant to unite. That is exactly why you must. Return not for nostalgia. Return for nationhood. Bring your pride. Bring your pain. Bring your prophecy. Not diaspora anymore. Soldiers returning to the battlefield history tried to bury. You survived captivity. Now together let us destroy captivity's legacy. Africa, my homeland, my burden, my awakening. How long will we continue to kneel for help from those who place their knees on our necks? How long will we wait for mercy from people who built empires on our misery? We are not the children of poverty. We are the architects of civilization. We designed pyramids while others drew caves. We navigated the stars while they followed torches. Our ancestors were not poor. They were robbed. Yet today we beg for loans to build what we already have the hands to create. We beg for peace from those who arm our enemies. We beg for food from those who poison our soil. The world expects Africa to plead. It is time Africa leads. To every African president, prime minister, king, and civilian, stop negotiating your dignity in exchange for approval. Stop accepting debt as development. Stop calling the UN for permission to defend your own people. The world does not respect nations that ask. The world respects nations that act. Africa must rediscover one truth. Power is not given. Power is taken. Our minerals run the world, yet our children go hungry. Our land fuels foreign industries, yet our youth drown in oceans searching for opportunity abroad. Our diamonds decorate crowns in Europe while our mothers walk miles for water. Africa is not poor. Africa is plundered. They do not fear our poverty. They fear what happens if we stop being plundered. We must break the myth that we are too divided to rise. Division was their greatest invention. They drew borders with pens soaked in arrogance. They gave tribes guns and called it balance. They turned neighbors into strangers and strangers into enemies. Every African conflict has fingerprints of foreign interest. Every coup has a sponsor. Every resource war has a buyer waiting offshore. Africa must refuse to play the puppet in someone else's play. Refuse to be the battlefield where others prove their power. Refuse to export raw wealth and import finished poverty. We must build our own factories, control our own media, guard our own skies, grow our own food, educate our own children to rule, not to serve. Let no African child learn history from the perspective of their oppressor again. Let no African currency depend on European permission. Let no African leader bow without consequence. Unity is not poetry. It is policy. It is pipelines connecting nations. It is military alliances that terrify those who once divided us. It is a passport that opens every African border. It is trade that circulates wealth within the continent instead of draining it to foreign banks. Freedom without power is a slogan. Independence without sovereignty is theater. We did not gain independence. We were granted management of our oppression. That era ends now. Africa must rise not as 54 countries, but as one civilization reborn. The diaspora must rise not as guests in foreign empires, but as partners in rebuilding their ancestral throne. We are souls scattered by trauma, destined to reunite by triumph. They stole people and land. We reclaim people and destiny. History is calling us to finish the story interrupted by chains. The world fears the day the stolen and the colonized become a single army of memory. The day the descendants of slaves find home in the land of kings. The day unity replaces borders. The day we rise with power, not passports. We must produce, not only protest. We must create, not only commemorate. Protests shake the streets, production shapes the future. The world will not remember how loud we shouted. It will remember what we built once the shouting stopped. When they lock the doors of opportunity, we do not wait outside knocking. We build another entrance. We build a new building. We build the city around them until their gates open out of fear of being left behind. Unity is not a dream. Unity is a weapon. They fear African unity more than African armies, because unity means negotiation from strength, not from sympathy. Imagine the world the day Africa says no. No to exploitation disguised as aid. No to loans disguised as traps. No to importing what we can produce. They know the day we stand as one, the global order shifts. There will be no G7, only G1 Africa. One currency. One central bank. One defense pact that makes invaders tremble before they even try. One satellite network controlling our own sky instead of paying others to watch us. One food reserve feeding our people through drought and disaster. One voice. One vision. One destiny. That future is not fantasy. It is foundation. A blueprint waiting for builders. Yet no one will hand us unity wrapped in a ribbon. Unity must be wrestled from the grip of those who profit from our division. Stop expecting justice from the architects of your oppression. Their power depends on your submission. Africa, how many times will you travel to Paris seeking partnership, only to return with new chains? How many agreements must be signed before we realize we are signing away our sovereignty? They come to negotiate, but what they really want is to measure how much they can take before we collapse. They are not studying our resilience. They are studying their opportunity. So let this truth be our turning point. We do not ask the world to treat us equally. We build a world where equality is irrelevant because African power cannot be ignored. Hold your ground, Africa. We are not behind time. We are ahead of the moment history has been afraid of. The moment when Africa rises not as a continent wounded by colonizers, but as a civilization